this Friday we celebrated one of the great feasts of the church, that of Apostle Peter and Paul, and in fact of all the apostles. And the reading that we just read now was the reading that is designated for that particular day. It involves in particular Peter, the son of Jonas, and also clandestinely St. John the theologian, a young boy, probably about age 12 then or so, who was one of the disciples of Christ. After breakfast, Jesus asks Peter whether he loves him 3 times. And on all accounts, Peter confirms that. He did this because Peter denied him 3 times when he was standing before Pilate and the Sanhedrin. And therefore it was needful that his confession that he loved him 3 times would undo that. It was his confession to the Lord. And for that the Lord not only forgave him, but said to him that he will be feeding my lambs, that he will be shepherding my sheep, and that that he would feed his lamb. What this means is that the apostles, and therefore the successors of the apostles, which are the bishops of the church, are obliged to feed and teach and shepherd the sheep of the church, which is the flock, the people. And if they do not do this in their life, then what is the point of their being these bishops in the first place? What is the point? Unfortunately today, we see that so many hierarchs in the Orthodox Church concern themselves very much with such things as trying to unite with the Pope of Rome. I don't know why. Holy men for 2,000 years or 1,500 years have tried to do that unsuccessfully. And why do they think that they will have success in that? Perhaps they will. But it has to do with money, it has to do with wealth, it has to do with all those sorts of things of the world, which is going to be blown away. It's going to perish. And all their works are going to perish. And why can't they understand this? Being bishops of the church, they should know these sorts of things and be doing them. It's quite plain from the teachings that the Lord has given us. When Peter was following the Lord, he looked back and saw this disciple, St. John the theologian, who wrote the last gospel, the Gospel of St. John, and asked about him, what's going to happen to him. And the Lord said, whatever happens to him, what's that to you if I am coming? In other words, he said that this apostle will be there until my coming. And we know from Holy tradition that Apostle John, who was like buried in the form of a cross, but then when they dug up the place where he was buried, he was no longer there. So it would seem that he would appear towards the end of time, both with the prophets of old, Elijah and others, in order to preach the coming of the Lord. And we know that at that time he will indeed be killed and go through the process of death as is ordained for all people. The other aspect that we heard today from the epistle reading was about the relationship between sin and death. And I have many people who ask and want to know and don't want to believe that we live in this world that is full of sorrows and all sorts of difficulties. I think, why should we? What have we done to deserve these sorts of things? Well, the fact of the matter is that when a person says that, they do not even understand how far away they stand from Christ in their own sinfulness. They think they're good, but in fact, if they saw their soul at that point in time, the Holy Father say, you'd die out of fright because of its corruption and all the horrors that it holds within itself. And that's why death came into the world, in order to cut that sin short. Because the Holy Father said, if a person was to live forever in that state, they would become worse and worse and worse, and even exceed the demons in their unrighteousness. And therefore death came into the world in order to cut that short. So it's a blessing in disguise that we have these sorts of things. This Friday, exactly on the feast of Apostle Peter and Paul, our good sister in the Lord, Elizabeth, passed away. Some of you might remember her and her husband. They're both in their 80s. They used to come here until Elizabeth got rather sick. So she passed away on Friday, and her husband and she so wanted to have the funeral here. So on Monday, tomorrow, at about noon, we'll be having the funeral for Elizabeth here, bringing her coffin and her body here for the burial service, and then it'll be taken to Springvale Cemetery. So please tell anybody else that you might know. There'll be a lot of people here that are not Orthodox, because Elizabeth and her husband Bill, from Scottish background. And it's interesting that yesterday all the saints of Scotland were commemorated. Such an amazing thing. So this is a good opportunity for you all to witness about the truth of Orthodoxy before people that probably have never been to an Orthodox church in their life. Most likely not. So it's one of these things where you have an opportunity to, as they say, have a missionary conversation or a missionary deed with others. And who knows, perhaps out of that lot, even one might be inspired to find out more about Orthodoxy, and may even accept the faith. God help us with this, and may He give us understanding that death is not an end to things, but like a birth, it's a passing into another world, and a better one at that. A better one at that. When Elizabeth was dying and we were there with her, she was already seeing aspects of the other world. Usually the first ones that appear are the demonic forces, and she was saying, which, you know. In there, we would say demons or something, but she said which. But nevertheless, at the point of when the soul leaves the body, her guardian angel and the others come to take that to the heavenly realm. God help us all and preserve us, and please pray for her on this important part